Welcome to DIY Guitar Making at Eric Schaefer Guitars. I'm going to talk about the fixture that I use to hold guitar necks during the neck carving process. I get a lot of questions about this jig in particular, frankly because it solves a lot of the problems that people have with more traditional neck carving fixtures. I'm also going to show you how to build this incredibly simple jig. Okay, so here's my jig, which I've come to refer to as the Viking ship because, well, it looks like a Viking ship. The main problem with neck carving fixtures in general is access. I built this jig because I wanted to be able to access all parts of the neck without having to move clamps around and then work on one area and then move the clamps again, which just interrupts the process. Other neck carving fixtures always involve clamping the headstock down, which isn't the worst place to have a clamp because at this stage the headstock should already be shaped. But there is a certain amount of blending that you have to do with the transition area between the shaft of the neck and the headstock. So with the Viking ship, I can load the neck into the fixture one time in the beginning and have access to the entire neck at once so that the carving process can be a fluid process of sculpture and not an awkward process obstructed by clamps. Another smaller problem I see with more traditional neck carving jigs is that you build the headstock angle into the jig itself. So the part of the jig where you would be clamping the headstock down, you would cut that angle into it so that the headstock angle and the angle on the jig match perfectly. But the problem with that is that if there's any even very slight mismatch between the jig's angle and the angle on the headstock itself, well, now you're just going to be putting unnecessary stress on the headstock by forcing it to conform to the jig's angle with a clamp. When you're cutting the scarf joint of the headstock, it's somewhat easy, if you're not careful, to end up with a headstock angle that is, say, half a degree off from what you intended. The Viking ship doesn't have this problem because nothing is pressing down on the headstock. It's actually dowels through the tuner holes that are maintaining lateral pressure instead of downward pressure. That's what keeps the neck in place on this jig. Another advantage of this setup is this big open cutaway area beneath where the neck shaft would be. This is simply so I can feel the neck as I progress. I can even pretend to hold chord shapes, which ordinarily I would have to remove the neck from the jig to truly feel the neck, which again just interrupts the process. Also, this cutaway allows me to get a caliper in here so I can measure the thickness at various places along the neck so that I don't carve too far. So the way you fit the neck in here, and actually I wish I had the guitar neck I was just working on to show you this, but I have already attached it to the body, so unfortunately I won't really be able to demonstrate how you put this in here, but it's really simple. The only thing to watch out for is when you load the neck in here, the headstock end is going to be down here, and again, the dowels are going to pass through the tuner holes, and then they will basically ride against this surface, and you can use a rubber band, a thick, durable rubber band, not the kind you would get at Staples or an Office Max, like a woodworking store rubber band. Or what I like to use is cam straps. Here, this right here, this is a cam. This is what a cam strap is. It's like a tie down that you would use for your vehicle. They just don't have as bulky of a holding mechanism. But they work really great at applying pressure against these dowels. And that's all you need is just a little bit of pressure pressing this against here. And I can literally, you might think that this just kind of barely holds it there and maybe it waffles around a little bit, but actually I can grab the neck, just holding onto the neck, I can pick up this whole thing and it will take the jig with it, and I can shake it around, swing it around, and it's totally solid in there with just the dowels coming through and simply a strap tightened around the side. Nothing's moving at all in any direction. But anyway, the one thing to watch out for when you put this in here, again, the headstock's down here, the fretboard tongue would be down at the opposite end, and you just want to make sure that both part of the neck and the fretboard are over this area. I have this designed in such a way that the tenon is over this area, so all that pressure that you put on the neck is then supported against the fretboard rather than creating a weak spot by having just the fretboard tongue come over this section. Okay, so building this jig is incredibly easy. As you can see, it's not a complicated thing. You just take two sheets of 3/4 MDF and glue them together, and then you're going to cut out this shape that you see here. I'm not going to give you my exact dimensions because what I want you to do is take one of your guitar necks that you plan on carving. You really want to build it around the dimension of that guitar neck. So you just hold the guitar neck up to the piece of wood here, and you're going to mark just a little bit past where the tenon is located, is where this cut will begin here. Come this way, and it ends right before the fretboard ends on this side, so that you can rest on the fretboard here and also beneath the tenon on this side, so you're supported again by both the fretboard and the neck, not by just one or the other. And then after that, you just want to make these two cuts here, which is really just an area shaped to fit a C-clamp. So this area is cut away like this so that the screw portion of the clamp doesn't hit the jig, and then this is just the area where, you know, the clamp will hold itself. So just take a small C-clamp that you have, whatever size you plan on using, definitely the smaller the better, so that clamp isn't bulky and getting in the way, and just cut it around the clamp. So there's no need for strict size measurements here, just use the clamp itself to determine where you need to make those cuts. And then the last thing is this area up here, your dowels are going to pass through the tuner holes. Now for me, with these two 3/4 inch sheets glued together, that happens to be just the perfect size as it relates to the position of my tuner holes, so that these pass through here and they run right along the edge like that. It's very likely that you will not be as fortunate with your exact dimensions. So all that means that you'll have to do is sand or carve away on this area to thin it out so that these do run right along the edge. Or if you have the opposite problem where they're sitting up too far, you just need to shim this up. Just glue down some thin pieces of MDF or scrap wood, whatever you have, to thicken up this area again so that the dowels will run right along the edge. And then you simply hold the dowels in place with the cam strap around this section, tighten it down nice and tight. You can use all 6 dowels if you want. I used to do that. I no longer do, just for the reason that it's not necessary. Just the 2 dowels in the D and G string holes seem to hold it just as well as putting all 6 dowels in there. So that's, really up to you. Anyway, that's the jig. I hope that answers all of your questions. By the way, if you guys want to learn more about how I carve my necks, I teach neck carving. I go into incredible detail about it in the online course, Building an OM Acoustic, at ericschaeferguitars.com. So you can check that out as sort of the ultimate resource for neck carving. Other than that, I hope this short video on building the Viking ship jig is helpful and useful to you guys out there. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video every Friday. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaeferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.